Now, why did I choose the topic turning points? It does have some meaning to me, I think particularly for two reasons. The first is, I think, in my view, life isn't about a sort of aimless walk in the park just to enjoy things that you come across. Neither should it be a case of being lost in a maze where you walk around looking for something and you can't find where you want to go. In fact, I also don't think, metaphorically, life should be climbing towards a peak of excellence. I don't think people, when they start out in life, even know what that peak is, much less how to get there. I think life is really about a journey very much in search of a purpose. The first turning point in my life, that's a cute-looking kid, right? When I was young, when I was born up to about 6 years old, I spent probably more than half my time actually in hospitals. I was an asthmatic when I was young. I lived in Thailand, and at that time there was no such thing as Ventolin, Seretide, and so on. So I was asthmatic because I was allergic to mosquito repellents, but my parents never knew. So I was in and out of hospitals. I think the first turning point lesson here at a very young age is actually the answer to the question, why me? And that's a very simple answer. Why not me? Why should any of us be so special in the world to be blessed? Why can't disasters and misfortunes affect us like it affects other people? And I think the sort of awakening you have when you realize that at a very young age is that you just accept whatever life gives to you and you just move on. The second turning point was actually quite a long time later, when I was about 16 years old, 10 years later. And I was at that time a teenager already. You see this teenager? Filled with angst, right? A lot of angst. I discovered since the age of 16, when I started asking why, that to me, the most liberating and yet the most dangerous, the most revolutionary three-letter word in the English language is why. Asking why is the fundamental reason for how people become leaders. It is what separates the leaders from the followers. Disruption, innovation, and progress does not occur without asking the question, why? And for me personally, asking the question, why, has probably been the single most important reason for two things in my life. One, getting thrown out of university, getting thrown in jail, and for whatever moderate success I've had. And from there, I became a student activist. This is me on the verge of getting thrown out of Stanford University. From my high school years until university, I think that from about 18 to 25 probably were the most transformative periods of my life. I have the rare accolade, I'll have you know, that Stanford has graduated about 300,000 students. They have only kicked out 5 people, and I am one of them. And nowadays, when I give talk on leadership, both to my colleagues or to other people, I actually tell them, try to think of your own life and the decisions you made, small or big, which were the right decisions, but were the most painful. I think it is when you encounter such dilemmas in your own life, having to make decisions which you know in the heart, your heart of hearts, you know that's a right decision, but it's so painful to make. And when you make those and you learn from them, you're able to, in the future, make more and more decisions which are right, but which are painful. And I'll never forget the lonely moments I walked around at Stanford. The school had ended, and I was so torn to just continue my carefree life as a student activist, or to go to a country which I'd never lived in Singapore. I applied for NUS to be a transfer student with all the grades and recommendations from the teachers in Stanford, and NUS said, no way. Again, I was torn between just going back and finishing 1 year at Stanford, or starting all over from year 1, but with NUS. And of course, that was to me an important turning point. The right reason for why I accepted to stay on in Singapore was that was the only way I got to meet Claire, right? So the not so good part was I had to start as year 1. And starting from year one, it's pretty boring. I hadn't had anything to do, so I started wanting to make some money. I didn't live at home with my parents. I rented a place outside. I had to pay the rent. So I started writing for Far Eastern Economic Review. And one thing led to another, and wham, I got detained as a pro-communist. And the political detention taught me one thing. It was a turning point and a lesson that whatever you do, there are serious consequences. So whatever you choose to do in life, do not think of it as a light decision. So at the age of 29, I came back. I joined the family business. And I must say that it has been a very important and a very meaningful turning point for me. In the mid-1980s, I came across a piece of land in Phuket, which was an abandoned tin mine. And we bought it for a lark, didn't know what we wanted to do with it. But essentially, I became an amateur hotelier, an accidental hotelier. I knew nothing about the hotel industry. Neither did I have a particular desire to go into the hotel industry. But because we came across this piece of land, we bought, and then we built a hotel, then second hotel, third hotel, I became a hotelier. And the moral of that story is, you never know, again, what you are going to do in life. The final turning point, I think, is this one. At the age of 45, in 1997, having spent quite a bit of my life criticizing university education, criticizing education in general, I was landed with a job of starting SMU. I do not have the necessary skill sets, but I had values, and I had a philosophy, and I had a worldview. And I think the lesson here for all of us is that when these turning points happen to you in life, you have to decide whether you want to grab it or not. I was thinking of turning it down on the grounds that I know nothing about education. How could I deal with 300 professors, all with PhDs and so on? But the point in life here is that if you have something that you truly believe in enough, and you do ever have the opportunity to act upon it, seize the day. That's the last turning point. Interesting point here, if you see, is that for the last 20 years, there have been no other turning points. There have been very important milestones for me, but not turning points. Because after the age of 45 onwards, my life was set. I had found my purpose in life, my goals, and then it becomes mainly a case of wanting to go out and do better what you can do. So in conclusion, I just wanted to say that to me, turning points are very important. We have to be mindful all along, even as we're older. I do not know today, at my age, whether there will be something else that may happen that will allow me to make a choice of this way or that way. But I think we all have to be open to the idea that little decisions we make have turning points. Life is about turning points all the time. Life is full of potential turning points. And the whole idea about mindfulness is the idea that whatever we do in life, there should be always a part of you that's looking down on yourself, as if you're observing yourself, so that you are not just mindlessly going through life, but very mindfully seeing what every decision you make is important for you. And it's important sometimes to have these montages for yourselves and to look back on your own life and to say, what were the turning points in my life? How did I live my life? And were the turning points points that led me to a greater search for meaning and for purpose? And when I talk about in search of purpose, I emphasize this. It's not the P, it's not the capital P that's important. It's the small p. Having purpose means, to me, being able to wake up every day with joy, with excitement, because there's something that you're excited about. All these things give us purpose. And it's the purpose with a small p that I think is really, really important.